And okay, yeah, okay, we're like 3 seconds off, but that's good. That's fine. Okay, yeah. So let me try this screen share out. I have like a 10-year-old computer, which is why I'm just trying to make sure that everything's okay, you know? Let's see. Yeah. And yeah, this is my 3rd time doing it on Zoom, so oh, don't peek, those are the questions. Okay.
I see it's the painting, so we're good.
Yeah, okay, sweet. Okay, stop share. And yeah, I mean, we'll get around to your work and all the things. So
okay.
So yeah, anyway, let's just go ahead and start. Kalyan, right? Is that what I call you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Thanks for coming on the podcast. And
thank you for having me. We've followed each other and been in contact for years now, I feel like.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, at least over a year. I think I don't know how I discovered you. It was probably just on Instagram. Yeah. And your work just immediately blew me away because I recognized all these like the mashup kind of remix sampling style you have. With,
right.
Like Renaissance paintings and comic books and, you know, current contemporary artists like Murakami and what's that guy? Jeremy Geddes.
Oh yeah, Geddes,
the spaceman, or the astronaut. Yeah. So yeah, big props, big shouts to you and your work. And
thanks, brother.
Yeah. So usually
I have questions for you as this goes on, because I actually have been thinking about your work quite a bit. So
really, okay, interesting.
Yeah, but we go at your pace, but we'll get into it.
I appreciate that actually, because it makes for a richer conversation. When the guests have some inquiry, you know, and we can have like a back and forth rather than it just being like a straight interview, you know, which is fine too. But yeah, so usually I just start with like your backstory. What was your childhood like? Were you a weird kid? Were you like, did you fit in or?
Yeah, I think I was. I guess I was. I've never been asked questions before. That's kind of cool. Like art interviews, I'm always talking about art. This is the more personal stuff. Weird kid. Yeah, I was weird. Yeah, strange.
Hey, hang on one second. Can you? I don't know where your mic is on your computer.
It should be on my headphones.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
good
good
coming
now.
Through?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
You were kind of a little technical difficulties there, but that's all right.
Yeah, but I was a weird kid. I would say that's an accurate descriptor.
Yeah.
And I was an artist. I knew I wanted to be an artist and my dad tells a story that I was trying to draw a circle starting at the age of 2, and it would just look like this. It would just be like a straight line, but it would slowly start curving until I got all the way around. But yeah, I was always persistent and focused on technique, and from a really young age, I can remember that. But in school and everything, I was a strange guy, but I was also an athlete. So I was involved in sports and everything. And I grew up mostly in Wisconsin. My parents met in New York State, and I was born there. And then my dad got a job in Wisconsin. And then we did go, my dad's from India. We went back to India for a couple of years. Okay. He would be working there for a while. But so I grew up between those two places. Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So you were making art very early. I'm assuming you took art classes because your stuff is just so photorealistic. It's pretty incredible.
I think I always took art in school, but I really think it was just my own discipline. And for some reason, when I was young, I was obsessively disciplined.
Really?
It's good for me now because it all worked out. But I'm less disciplined now, but it doesn't matter as much. Like I have the discipline to push through things, but I don't have that discipline to get it exactly right. No, it has to be right. Like that stuff drives me crazy now. Yeah. But I've gotten to the point where I'm close enough. That's fine.
Yeah.
But until I was about 13, I was very obsessive with technique. Like when I would make a drawing, I remember not wanting to be able, I didn't want anybody to be able to see any pencil marks. I wanted to just be totally smooth, any gradient,
Yeah.
everything that, yeah. But, and I'm not that way anymore. Thank God. That it drives you crazy.
Yeah.
So I think it was mostly self-taught, though I did try to take every art class.
Nice. So when did you develop the ability, I guess, to make things look so real and just spot on? Because as we'll see later, like your work is almost like exact. It's a mashup, of course, but it's almost parts of it are like exact replicas of really famous paintings. And I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I think I was always kind of obsessed with learning other people's techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was really young, that would be it was like comic book guys. Like I'd look at all the different comic book guys. I'd be like, "This is how this one draws," and then I draw like him. And this is how this one draws, and I draw like him. And then as I got older, I started becoming interested in realism. So I would say probably that age 13 was probably when I was able to make something, and it was photoreal. Like you look at the photo and that side by side, and you say, "Oh, it's exactly the same." And that's actually when I lost interest in art.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I didn't know what to do, from where to go from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't have anything to say anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, "Well, that's it. I won." And then it wasn't till I think I was 26 by the time I got back into it. I mean, I took classes in high school, and then in college I majored in art, although I didn't go to an art school.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't take it seriously, and didn't even do anything. I did more conceptual work.
Okay.
I'd be sticking things to the wall with thumbtacks and peeing on it or whatever, you know.
Yeah. 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 That's interesting.
Yeah.
We have like pretty similar stories, except for the part where, like now I'm not struggling, but I'm learning how to be disciplined. Like when I was younger, I was just like, like, you know.
I was actually curious. When did you start?
So very similar. Like I was definitely drawn. I didn't have any sort of like photorealism down by the time I was 13 or anything like that, but I was definitely drawing a lot up until about that age. And that's when kind of like, you know, hormones kicked in and social pressures really started to mount. And you said you were involved with sports, and so I sort of was like, well, you know, like seems like everybody's playing sports, so I guess I will too.
Right.
And I was never like a great athlete or anything, but I actually like quit the football team when I was, you know, senior in high school. I was going to finally start. For some reason, they had me at tight end, and like I don't know if you can tell by my face. Yeah, right. Like I'm skinny. I like have trouble putting on weight. I probably shouldn't have been playing football in the first place, but it was just kind of one of those sports where like you didn't have to be super athletic, like basketball or soccer or something. And like right. I could catch the shit out of the ball, but like I wasn't fast. So they were like, I guess you're tight end. But yeah, so I didn't start painting until I was 26, the exact like same age you were talking about. So it's pretty interesting.
And what were your influences? Like I as far as I can understand, a lot of the visionary art crowd, that's what they call it, is doing a similar thing to you. Do you see yourself as a part of that? Were you influenced by that? Or did you just move into,
No, definitely. In college, like my friend had like an Alex Gray book, and you know, we were experimenting with psychedelics when we were actually still in high school, but like by that time it was like I was like, oh, you know, and I just started drawing again, and it wasn't like a conscious thing. I wasn't like, I'm gonna be a visionary artist, you know, but just kind of the and people listening to this, I think that my audience is mostly festival kind of centric, this sort of like bohemian traveling festival artist or performer,
Right.
you know, so they'll know what I'm talking about. So since I was already sort of embedded in that scene, like big lover of music, I still play by myself, but was in a band and would go to
What do you play?
guitar, bass. I got
Awesome.
a little melodica and a xylophone too. So,
Sweet.
you know, fun stuff by myself. I don't really try and make anything out of it anymore, but yeah, it's just, I think it was a product of just cause and effect, just like where I was at. And, you know, at the time, the internet wasn't really the internet like it is today. So I was just kind of influenced by, I guess, first of all, like psychedelics and that sort of like trans self experience, you know.
Does that still heavily influence you? Do you feel like that's
Not
there, or is it okay?
not as much anymore because I don't know. I'm very like polar with it, where some of my work is very narrative and like trying to like say something with it. But then other work, more of the new stuff, is just kind of abstract forms and shapes, making this sort of strange space, this liminal space that we, you know, that we can't really put into words. But yeah, I'm not, you know, like, I don't know, the whole festival scene's it's pretty hilarious because you're interacting with people in the moment while you're painting. There's like really no barrier, you know.
How do you do with live painting? Because
it has its pros and cons, you know, like some of the stuff that I've created, I've never would have created without that context. You know what I mean? But then it's also like you get like tripping kids who are at their first festival coming up to you and like looking at a row of painters and being like, did you paint all of these? It's like a running joke in our community. It's pretty funny. But yeah, it's interesting that like we kind of have the same sort of like age timeline, you know?
I had known, I don't know how, that you had started like professionally a little bit later, because a lot of guys, they'll be 21, 22 and they're saying, okay, I'm
right.
Like as soon as they get out of college, they're off. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Like 26 is a weird age. It's not a midlife crisis.
No. It was, you know, it's like did a little wandering there after college and stuff. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of my story. Thanks for asking.
Well, the visionary art community was one I was I had seen Alex Gray, but I really wasn't aware of it before I got on Instagram. And I think at first, I think it was mistakenly so. I have no problem categorizing my art, but I think people thought that I was of the same ilk, but I love it, but I don't think that I'm thinking about it the same way. I'm not part of that scene at all.
Right. I talked about this a couple of podcasts ago with a producer. He goes by Supercilious, and he was kind of saying like, you know, there's this sort of like this spiritual, like explicitly spiritual bent to visionary art. And it again has its pros and cons, but one of the cons that I agree with him with is that it kind of turns into this sort of like brand reverence, you know, and it has like sort of, and I'm not trying to bash on visionary art because it's great, but like it has like some characteristics of a cult, a little bit sometimes, and even like the music, like you know, Bass Nectar was like a big cult vibes. So yeah, I don't know where to go with that, but
no, I understand. That's the feeling that I've gotten, because I've been approached by some people who are more on the support side, not the artists, but on the back end of it. I don't know what they do, like find the artists, put them together in different shows, whatever. and asking if I wanted to do things. And then they started describing what the atmosphere would be. I said, that's not, I don't like,
it's not the
I don't have
context.
any problem with that. I wouldn't mind going there, but that's not how my work is. That's not how that works. Like,
yeah.
for me, I'll show up, but I don't think my work actually fits in that context at all.
Yeah. Well, so why do you make art? Do you think about that, and how do you think about that?
Well, I think about it in a couple ways. I think I started, it was always in me. That's what I felt like I should probably be doing. But I was working jobs, and then I was going to have a kid, and then he was born, and I thought, well, I got to do something. So in a way, I think rather than being practical, I went the opposite direction and thought, you have to set an example. Like, even if I fail, you should try at life, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So that automatically put a few things in play. First, this doesn't play out in my thought process behind the construction of it, but I knew that once I made something, it had to sell.
Right.
Like, I have to find a way to sell. But the beauty of art, the way I see it, is you can, if you're doing something interesting, you can make truly anything. So you should follow your heart first and then try to sell it after. So the sales was immediately, I said, okay, I got to make a living doing this. But in the making of things, it's like I said, when I was 13, I didn't know where to go. But I think when I was 26, then all of a sudden it started to occur to me that what I didn't know where to go is I didn't know what my voice was, what I had to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started realizing, well, whatever I say is what I have to say.
Right.
It hadn't really occurred to me before that. Like, you think it should be something profound, right?
Yeah, yeah. And also when you're 13, you just don't really have much to say.
No, nothing. Nothing. But, even I think voice, every artist, I think you'll attest to this, like, even now from when you're 26, my voice is so clearer, or something. So it just happens that way. You know what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started, a lot of the things that happened kind of surprised me, like moving towards religion, putting religious things together. That happened pretty quickly, combining religions. And another thing that happened immediately was combining different artists.
Yeah.
I started in sculpture and everything, but I was already thinking that way.
Yeah.
And that was by mistake. It wasn't by design.
Interesting.
I think, and now it's become a style. And I don't know, sometimes I get flack for that. People say you're just copying it, but I don't, whatever. I could paint something else. Clearly I'm doing this for a reason. That's what I feel like saying.
Right. And it's like, DJs or producers have made a killing off of sampling, and it's kind of the same thing. It's just in this medium, it's not as well, or it's not as I guess common or accepted yet.
I think it probably should be, and I think as digital, like collage was always a thing, but as digital becomes more prominent, I think we're going to see that way more. So, and I think it should be like everything has value. I mean, what am I talking about? So, but I was surprised anyways. So that I think the question is what I think about. So when I'm making things, I kind of have my mind blank. Like a lot of times it's very rare that an idea comes to me immediately. I'll give you an example of a painting that came to me in 1 second. I said, I got to do that. Was Obama with Kim Jong-un riding on a horse next.
Yeah.
I don't know. That image just came to me. I said, I'm doing that. But most of the time I have a starting point, since it's all these, basically a collage of paintings, which I had a starting point. I said, I really like this image, but then oftentimes my mind, I think, but I have to balance this out. So I start combining images till it gets to the subtle point that I'm trying to get to. And I say, that's it. And then
So do you composite these on Photoshop, or do you
composite everything? When I first started, I didn't. And so I once spent 19 months on a painting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that feeling.
Because you're doing it and you're like, oh, it's not, and then it was huge. It was 10 feet tall and 8 feet wide. So it was big.
Right.
But I did not want to ever spend 19 months again because I might as well work at McDonald's is what I was thinking.
Yeah. By the time you sell the painting.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, I got to figure it out and then just render it. So that takes away a bit of the creative joy. But I don't think I'll do it forever either. So I'm not too worried about that. It's not like this is my permanent state. So.
Right. I feel like the newer stuff I've seen you post too, like there's that one where it's like a black and white image and it looks like soldiers in Vietnam. And then there's a smaller image in the middle that doesn't seem anything except maybe just photos at the very most.
That one in particular is a photo of, and I changed the photo, but it's a photo of some soldiers in Vietnam. And then the center frame, there's a mushroom cloud coming out of it. I kind of just made that, but then the center frame is from the movie Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of those movies that everyone's like, you need to see that, and I still haven't seen it. I've seen the first Blade Runner, but
it's very well made. So
yeah. Another endorsement to check that out. All right.
But actually, all the paintings I'm going to do this year are that same format. Actually, it's funny you bring that one up. Yeah, they're all going to be black and white, and then the figures are going to be facing away from the camera, from us, and they'll be facing this color piece in the middle, just to do a series.
So what are you trying to say there?
Well, it's kind of, I had a couple different ideas going with that. First, I think when you get in front of one of my paintings in a gallery, they're huge, sometimes. I had a show and we had one which was 16 feet wide, another that was 20 feet wide, and there's a million things going on. And I think it's hard for people to place exactly what I'm trying to say or what I'm trying to do. So it makes an artist statement somewhat valuable. But I don't like those either sometimes. So So what I wanted to do was kind of place my own work in a context. So we have the center frame, and that's like one of my paintings.
Right.
And then we have these people facing it. And the people facing it are well, in this one, they're in a war zone. They're in some type of circumstance. And for me, that's what's going on in the world. Like, just because we have AC and Zoom calls doesn't mean that this isn't all going to end in 10 seconds.
Right.
Like I can go to the grocery store today, but imagine if I couldn't, it would be mayhem in the streets.
Right.
So that's kind of how I see the world at all times. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say in my paintings. Like, here's where we are. And from that context, you can look at my paintings and maybe then you see what I'm trying to talk about a little better, whether it be something spiritual or whatever the content inside the frame is. Then it gives you a framework to look at that. And then the other thing, the title of the series is going to be Tank Man, for the Tiananmen Square Tank Man, who's facing away from the camera and everything is coming at him. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So about the Tank Man, I hope I have this one saved. Well, I don't have it saved, but the painting that you did, it seems to sample the School of Athens, and there's the guy with the grocery bag, the plastic grocery bags in the middle. Is that dude?
Yeah, that guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was actually that painting, the first oil painting I ever did as a professional.
Really?
I had done them before. It wasn't like I jumped into that, but I was the first one I said, I'm going to sell this thing. And that was the first one. Yeah.
Cool. So let's get back to where you're at 26. So you had already had your first child by then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Had my first kid, and then I was working at a jewelry design company. I told this story before, but it's such a strange story because I didn't see it coming. I think a lot of things in my life, it was inevitable, but those 10 seconds before it happened, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I was working there, and I went to the bathroom, and I was just washing my hands, and I just looked in the mirror. I said, and I just left.
That
That was it. And I went to the public, I had no idea what to do. I went to the public library for about 2 weeks straight instead of going to work. I just went and sat and read Isaac Asimov books, actually.
Nice.
So, and then I said, okay, I have to be an artist. And I had a bit of money saved up from working in jewelry design. There was some money from that. And I just tried to figure it out.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of jumping around a bit in the order that I wanted to go, but when you think back about it, I'm interested in like your general like philosophical take on reality. Do you believe in free will? I guess I'll just come out and ask that question because I think it's a very rich and interesting topic.
I don't often consider these things.
Nice.
Because in the moment, I think we all feel like we're making decisions. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't believe it or whatever, you still feel like, I wanted to eat this or whatever.
Right.
But I think in a larger context, there's an inevitability of the whole. And I think it's hard to say where the whole stops. Like, is there an inevitability of me?
Right.
Like, I'm a whole of something.
Right.
Or just mean the collective of humanity? Or do we just mean the ecosystem, everything?
Right.
Or the planets and the universe and the solar system and the molecules?
Right.
But I feel like there's some sort of inevitability. It has to happen in some ways.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. When I think about it, like in the context of my own life, how I got to where I am now, it's hard to really be like, no, I made a conscious decision that was free of any sort of cause and effect beforehand, you know. Anyway, we don't have to get too far into the weeds just yet.
Wherever you want to go, I'm ready to go.
But
I actually have a question on the opposite end of the spectrum. Mine is really a capitalist question.
Yeah.
Because I'm really fascinated by visionary art. I feel like part of the reason I didn't want to be associated with it was because I didn't feel like I fit into it. I don't think this goes with my work. Like, I don't think Kim Jong-un on a horse is visionary art. I just don't think that. But
I mean, I do.
Other side, yes. But the other side of it is, I thought it might, if I said, yeah, I'll do a show with that, I thought, I don't know if there's a career in this. Like I said, I've made it, the work. I'm not worried about what I'm making. I'm worried about what it's done with it. I said, I don't know if there's a career if I take that avenue. Is there? Like, how have you felt for that for yourself? Like, is there a collector base? Do you feel like there's people?
There's definitely people supporting it. And since I don't have any really very much experience outside of that context just yet, from what I can see from my perspective is that it is a small pond, and it's not like competitive in the sense where like everyone's very kind and giving and helpful, but it's also like it's just a small pool, I feel like, of resources at least. And you know, you're putting me on the spot because it's kind of my bread and butter, but
sure.
At the risk of, I guess, biting some of the hands that might feed me, it just seems like very limiting in the long run. Like,
I often feel I often feel about what they call the art world. It's just like, I don't know, whatever, 100 guys or something.
Yeah.
Not artists, but like
the collectors.
It's like I always think about the story that went the first day of Art Basel, the actual convention center show, like not Scope or whatever, but Art Basel. With Gagos and all those characters, like they open up, and on the first day, there's like 30 guys that walk in. That's it.
Yeah, it's like the VIP.
It's not like the VIP of like 300 people. It's like
yeah,
10, 20 guys with their wives. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know about the Pareto principle or the 80-20 principle? Where
tell me.
Basically it's like it works across all kinds of systems, but basically 80% of the output, or in the case of, in the context of the art world, 80% of the money or the collectors come from like 20% of the larger group that's like interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, from where I'm standing right now, it does seem like there's, and I don't want to, I'm probably ruining my career, but whatever. But it seems kind of like a cabal or something, or like a not or some less negative context where it's like this little clique of people, and maybe if you sell to one of those people, then it can snowball into more and more things down the line.
Are you involved at all with Alex Gray? Like, I know he has like a.
I've met him and been up there and painted at his spot.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm not tight with him, but yeah, certainly a lot of respect, and he's so nice and so open and awesome that
he's like a wizard, dude. His work is
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, yeah, he's a great guy. I've got nothing but great things to say about him and Allison and Cosm and what they've managed to accomplish in their careers. And it's he's like one of those guys where, you know, you're kind of afraid to meet your heroes sometimes because you might be disappointed in who they actually are. But like, no, Alex is like spot on who he is all the time. Just
what you expected.
When you talk to him, he's like giving you his full attention. He's not like, oh, there's someone I need to go talk to over there. It's like locked in, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that ethos kind of like, you know, since he's kind of like the grandfather patriarchal figure, that ethos sort of spreads throughout the scene or the community.
I think that he's, in a way, as far as my thoughts when I was initially looking at this, he's the prime example, because for what he does and the influence that he's had just on the world, not even just on art community, just everybody, he should be, you know, in the Museum of Modern Art. They should have a section, like sometimes, okay, a rotating section, here's what he did. But the broader art world has not accepted what he's done that way. It's not there.
I think it's because, I mean, this is my own opinion based on maybe nothing, but I think it's because it's explicitly spiritual, you know?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of modern art, you know, I guess since, I don't know when, but maybe turn of the century-ish has explicitly drifted away from religiosity and paintings and stuff like that.
You have to be very secular, and if you deal with religion, it has to be with a heavy sense of irony.
Right.
If there's any sincerity to it, it's kind of not taken seriously.
That's interesting.
And I think that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, what's up with that? Do you have any sort of insider information on that? Or?
I don't. I think it may be a broader cultural shift.
Yeah.
For me personally, I feel like I'm trying to get around it in a different way. I think my work does have a spiritual bent to it, and it's not
for sure
ironic. But I think coming from an Indian background but living in the United States gave me an angle which most people don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think looking eastward, there's a sense of only seeing the piece of it, like you see meditation or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But when I read the Hindu epics, I mean, all they are is fucking and people killing each other. And like everybody says, oh, you should read the Bhagavad Gita. Like that's the spiritual book. Well, that book is Krishna telling somebody he should fight a war.
With his brother, right?
It's Arjun is a prince, and Krishna has agreed to drive his chariot. Cool.
But is Arjun
against his cousins?
Yeah, his cousins.
Against his own cousins.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
He's like, well, you have to go. He's like, I don't want to do this. And he says, you have to. We
Yeah.
all have to go on what is our path in life. So to me, I'm approaching these topics from that angle. And maybe that's what's gotten me. People can look at it more in what they call seriously. Because I'm not saying, oh, it's like
it's all flowers and roses.
It's all flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but that's unfortunate because flowers and roses are a major part of it.
Yeah. But it's also got the grim aspects of life.
And that's the angle. That's how I see the world. So it wasn't like a conscious thing. I was able to go that direction naturally. And that's how I put the spirituality into it. I said, it's all this. Like, it's not just happiness, it's this.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the only reason I think people don't look at me as silly. Like I have the Indian, like identity is a big deal right now in the art world, like it is in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I got the Indian thing. And then, I mean, all these things make no difference to me in my practice or in my life.
Yeah.
But in the reality of what's going on over there, it makes a difference. Then the art, when I'm selling something, or not me, but whoever selling something of mine, then, well, I'm Indian. There's all these things, like, I don't know. It's a strange, I don't know how it's exactly working, but it's the fact that you can kind of secularize my work that makes it
like palatable to collectors or something. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Kalki series in particular. Okay. I think, so for people just listening to audio, I'm gonna pull up some pictures here on our Zoom chat, and just to kind of give examples so that we can, and also so that everyone can see Kalyan's work, because it's pretty dang incredible. And so would you mind explaining to listeners or viewers what the story of Kalki is?
Okay.
Or what it's about?
Well, he's the 10th avatar of Vishnu. So Krishna is the 8th or 9th. Buddha is maybe the 9th. There's some debate on whether he is or not. That's why Krishna is the 8th or 9th. Then there's been 9 to this point in history. And then in the future, there's going to be Kalki, who will be the 10th. And his role on Earth will be to, by force, send us back to a more innocent age. He just cuts everybody down, basically. And so there's a story about him. But this series started because I was thinking, what if he lost? Like, what if he lost? So I don't see it here, but there's the one where he's throwing down his weapons. I don't know if you've seen that one. He's on a horse and he's throwing down his weapons. That was the first one that I did. And then it evolved from there, where I just made that the third in the series, that he throws down his weapons, he gives up, but then he comes back as an older man, because that seemed more realistic to me. I just started making up the story, because there isn't a clear story. It hasn't happened yet.
Is this the one?
It's in the future.
Oh no, this isn't the one. He's not on a horse here, but.
Well, the story, I made it a 10-part. The story goes, there's one of him being pulled from a river as a baby. Then there's one where he the awakening is that you have down here at the second row, where he kind of realizes his purpose in the world.
Is he the central figure in the central panel, the blue guy? He's
the central figure in the central panel. He is, the blue guy, yeah.
Okay, nice.
And then after that, I kind of guessed his age for each one. He's 17 there. Then he gets defeated at 29. And I thought that's because I wanted to mirror, like in these epics, these Hindu epics, it's not like nobody's infallible. They go through all kinds of crap before they get to where they go.
Yeah.
So I kind of invented the story that he loses, and then he kind of forgets his purpose, and he gets married, and he's in love, and then she dies. Okay. And then he just then his purpose kind of takes off. So he takes revenge on the people who killed her, and then he fights this great war, which he is then victorious in. And it's done in 10 separate paintings. That's how I did it. So the revenge you see there, that's his revenge of her dying. The purpose is where he's mourning her death. And then Duty and Consequence, the triptych, the kind of purplish one, that's the war with the wave. And that's kind of the inevitability of humanity to me too. That's this wave, this acceleration.
Yeah. I love also that, like any good DJ worth their salt, you give credit to what you're sampling in these paintings. You'll say like, oh, this one has Caravaggio and this one has Dali and Rubens and Murakami. I want to.
No, it's funny. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I was going to say.
The glory of Zoom. Let me just show preparation for war real quick. I think this one might be my favorite. And something I noticed is that like on this Bierstadt, which is the landscape, you take this right side of the painting and did you invert it and then you painted it in the inverse?
Oh, I might have.
Right here.
I might have inverted it. Yeah.
So you're kind of also like remixing as well.
Is it open for you? I'm not seeing. I'm just seeing like the thumbnails on my
really?
screen. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Let me try and share this again. But yeah, here we go. Here's preparations of war.
Hey, there we go. I might have inverted it. Another thing I did was I remember I didn't like his clouds, Bierstadt's clouds. Even though his clouds are great, but I wanted different ones. So there's different clouds in there. I remember doing that.
And I think you added some like Ed Hardy.
I added some Ed Hardy tattoos on Jesus. Yeah.
It's pretty great. Because there's you kind of pepper in like a little bit of sense of humor in some of them, but it's not full on like irony or cynicism, you know.
I feel like I think my personality is to kind of mostly be humorous, and my work doesn't always reflect that. Maybe like I keep on bringing up Kim Jong-un on a horse. Maybe that kind of does.
Yeah.
But for the most part, my work doesn't reflect the way I'm in real life, which is pretty easygoing. And this work is kind of ultra serious, so I kind of try to throw a little bit in there to lighten it up.
Yeah. I'm kind of actually in the same boat there as well.
You feel that way?
Yeah, like my work doesn't I'm drifting more towards trying to infuse a little bit of silliness or lightness or humor into it. I did one painting where there's like this purple moon-headed goddess, but she's doing this. Did you ever play like the circle game as a kid, where you did like you'd be like, oh, look at this, and you like throw this little circle up, and if someone looks at you, like punch them. So she has that going on in that painting, but I don't know. I think trying to integrate my personality more with the work is, it's a challenge, but I think it'll ring more true and more clear in the future.
Let me ask you a question about that. What do you think about a lot of times, and I see this, a great example is when somebody loves an artist or a musician or whatever, like, do we have to not list, like, if once we know R. Kelly is a rapist, is his music diminished?
Yeah.
And how much of us is in our art? Is it a separate thing?
Is it the art or the
is
artist?
Is it the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you stand on that?
Gosh, I mean, like, I wasn't really an R. Kelly fan to begin with.
But just,
okay, so like, let's take Michael Jackson, right? That's a perfect example, because like, I think for the majority of people who like his music, even after all the stuff came to light in the past couple of years, they're still like, I mean, I'll still listen to Off the Wall. And the guy's also dead too, so it's kind of like, you're not exactly supporting him anymore because he doesn't necessarily exist.
What about an example? Let's take a dead person. What about, like, now it's been really popular to say, well, Picasso was a misogynist and this and that.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it matters if we're celebrating something about his great accomplishments as a philanthropist, But I don't know if anybody's doing that. We're just saying, well, he is a good painter.
Right. Or Dali even apparently was a renowned
was a
asshole.
fascist.
Yeah.
Like,
so I mean,
does it matter?
I think it matters less if they're dead, personally, because like there's this, I don't know, I think humans have this innate psychological need for retribution or punishment of some kind when, you know, things that we think of as despicable or committed. So like we're not, you know, there's no really, we're not really doing anything for anybody if we're like, yo, Dali's work is still really dope and I respect it. And
do you think that sense of wanting justice, I guess that's a bad word, but like somebody does something that we don't like and everybody piles on them, like, fuck that guy. Do you think that there's kind of a, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but do you think there's kind of a, that's been heightened? Because I think that can only exist. I think it can only exist when you're not looking at yourself.
Totally. I mean,
I would never do that, but we totally would do that. Like 90% of the bad things somebody does in the right circumstance or the wrong one, everybody on earth would probably do that.
Well, to circle back to free will, I think for me, this has been on my mind recently a lot, because I've come to see, for me, and you know, obviously we could have a debate about it, but when you let go of the idea of free will, you realize that like people are just kind of their circumstances, and until you know better, you can only act in some kind, you know, a way that you're predisposed to act, whether that's from a combination of genetics or society or whatever it is, you know.
Well, how does one, so let me ask you, do you have to attain the status of the Buddha to know better, or can we, on a smaller scale, know better?
Well, I think that's where things like justice come in, where it's not like practically we would lock up a murderer because they're dangerous for everyone. But this, I don't know, I might piss people off, but like there's this guy, you know, the guy who was sniping people at the University of Texas in the 60s. He wrote basically a suicide letter that was like, hey, I think there's something wrong with my brain. You guys should do an autopsy after, you know, you kill me or put me in jail or whatever it is. And they did an autopsy, and they found this giant tumor pressing on his amygdala in his brain.
Yeah.
And again, like, it's not an excuse to be like, oh, well, you know, I guess we should just let this guy be who he is. It's like, no, we should definitely either, I don't know, it's like lock him up or attempt to operate on him somehow. And as like as human, all I think there is really is like knowledge and wisdom, and the only thing that we can actually change are the inputs that we're putting in, like but you would sometimes you don't even know to pay attention to, say, Buddhism or values or morality if your whole culture is steeped in like you know, a big distraction or a big, like, you know, like in America, I think, you know, money is sort of, or the hustle for status or money is a big driver, and we're all kind of in this group think, and I don't know how that works exactly, but we're in a group think where, you know, those things can sometimes just take precedence.
No, that was a major. So I started art when I was 26, and then I went through a really rough time when I was 30. And that year I only made one piece of art, and I gave it away in a whole year. And it wasn't some massive thing. It was one thing. And the question that I had was whether to participate or not. Because I think there's no nobility to any of this. Like what I'm doing is just the same as I'm participating in this larger society. We're all just going forward.
Right.
I'm trying to make things, and hundreds of other artists are trying to make things. So we're just a giant factory of output. And we're cutting down trees and we're doing all these things, and there's things being sold, and we're a part of. So the question is, for me, maybe it's a little too black and white, because maybe another person would say, well, to do something from your heart and so on, which once you made the black and white decision, maybe that's the way you go. But the black and white for me was whether or not to move into the countryside and be an organic farmer and live carbon free, and or to participate. And the thing I figured out is, for myself, there's no honor in living a carbon free, organic, live on a farm lifestyle. Because the rest of society is going this way. What are you, just some self-righteous dude? Like, you could do that for yourself, but just know you're not doing anything. Like right. the tide is going.
Yeah, you're like this little drop in the ocean,
and you're no better than anybody else for doing that.
Right, right.
That's just what you did.
Right.
But once you commit to living in this thing, then you really have to live in it. Because every day I drive a car, and every day I do all these things. And recently it's accelerated for me even more. Recently I purchased a house. So once you purchase a house, it's like
you're locked in.
Dude, it's like the world is now you're it. Like, you're part of the thing.
Yeah.
It's got you. Because you have credit and a credit score and Social Security, like all these crazy things which seem pretty abstract from the outside. Like when I was young, I had a credit score of 0. I had never used credit, but I just played cash, everything.
Yeah.
It's just, but what they are is they're a system that contains you, and once you're a part of it, you accept and you go.
Yeah.
So that was the big question. I don't know how I came to that, but
it's so it makes me think of, and I guess I should clarify a little bit about the free will thing. First of all, I need to say that, like, I've been listening to Sam Harris, who has like a meditation app, and he's talking about free will in there. And
I don't know. I know who that is. I've never seen his opinions on that though.
Yeah. I mean, he just lays out a pretty great argument for it. And there's like an exercise where you can, think of a movie, is what he says. Just think of any movie. And so if you get a movie in your head, like, it's like, okay, I thought of Indiana Jones. It's like, well, you weren't free to think of movies you had never seen or heard of. And then if you really examine your thought process there, why did I pick Indiana Jones and not Star Wars, or not, Brokeback Mountain or whatever? Things just occur to you, and they just pop into consciousness, basically. But also, like, just because I don't believe in free will doesn't mean I don't think that choices don't matter. I think that they definitely do. And that's why, for me, like, focusing on what inputs I'm putting in here, like consuming mentally or emotionally or whatever, is very important. But to get back to what you were saying about living in the world and participating versus like going off to be kind of like this organic farming hermit, it reminds me of so like in Buddhism, there's like the two paths. I can't remember exactly what their actual names are, of course, right now when I'm on the spot. But basically, one is like, if you want to go meditate in a cave and like figure out your own mind, like, that's one way you could do it. But really the best way to do it is to be in the world, affecting things, mixing it up, spreading these ideas. It's more of a wider path. And it's, that's where like a sort of political bent comes in with like being a good person. Like, you can be a good person and pat yourself on the back for living carbon free, but you're providing for yourself and for your family. And really that's kind of where it stops, because as you said, there's like this big wave of, you know, corporations cutting down rainforests or whatever.
Right.
So
yeah,
those are kind of like my thoughts on all that, I guess. I'm glad we're going far afield from just art right now, you know?
yeah, man. I actually have a question about your art, if you don't mind my asking.
Yeah, go for it.
Like with my ideas, since it's figurative, I can kind of see how I'm putting things together. Like for me, I understand that. I mean, I could explain to somebody else, but for me, I understand that. But when I see your work, how do you come to the visual concepts that you put on a canvas? Like for me, sometimes I'll be running and it just pops into my head, or I'll be comparing things and putting them together. Like, how do you see what it is that you want to do with the image?
Typically, I have basically just made a mess at the beginning, just like where it could be like an abstract painting, but then I'm like, oh, this kind of looks, it's kind of that synesthesia thing where where
color,
or maybe it's pareidolia, I can't remember, but you yeah, it's pareidolia. Synesthesia is like hearing colors. Pareidolia is like seeing a pattern where it's just like a blob of paint. It's like a Rorschach test kind of a.
Oh, okay.
And so from there, I sort of start chipping away and sculpting at what maybe a form is, and then the story, or if it does have a story, sort of like emerges through that process.
See.
Yeah. That's how I have done it. I'm really.
It's process. It's a lot of process.
It's a lot of process. Like, you know, I've spent nearly a year on paintings before, you know, but they weren't that big. They're like 3 by 4 feet or something, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of like how you were saying you did your one of your first paintings where you.
Yeah.
It's too much, and so like as I'm growing older and becoming more disciplined, I'm thinking like, all right, I need to get Procreate, start sketching things out. And I mean, maybe even using a projector or something like that, and just really being clear and straight to the point. Like, I think that what happens for a lot of artists in my community is you get the psychedelic experience and you just want to tell everybody about it. And on each painting, you're trying to smush everything together. So it makes for like kind of sloppy composition and maybe a little oversaturated color, which I still have trouble with. And
oh yeah, do you feel that way?
Sometimes. I mean, I don't know. I you know, grass is always greener, but I look at like work like yours or people who know how to paint in a traditional manner using like the like earth tone underpainting and building it up from there, and like all the colors just look real and not like overblown, you know. So
I kind of like that. I would never have thought that you thought that way about your work, but that's interesting.
Well,
it's funny the things you can't guess from looking at it.
Right. Yeah. Right. And again, it's grass is always greener kind of thing. But yeah, I think for me, like I've really learned, even when I'm still doing that kind of process and having things emerge, I've learned to like cut the fat or like trim the fat and just like get to the point instead of trying to make everything super, you know, transcendent at every turn. It's like, okay, what do I want to say, rather than being like everything is all one, or you know what, you know, just some platitude like that. I want to like get to the heart of what it is that's going on and trying to include like the context of the world as well.
What do you think your current direction is with that? Like how are you doing that in a tangible sense?
Well, on a painting that I'm about to release in a couple weeks, through Madhouse Art. Shouts to them. I'm going, I've included some emojis and stuff, and the title of the painting is going to be, I don't want to reveal it right now, but it's going to be, it's going to be very like, it's like, you're going to be like, oh, I get what you're saying. It's not like, it's not as, it's detailed, but it's not like details are everywhere. It's like focused point. And I think that right now, currently, and then there's the other side of it is just like, let's just make some stripes and see what happens, and try and nail the values and make it look like some strange object or strange, entity like thing that's made out of shapes and not, I don't know. That's how I'm thinking about it right now. And I don't know. I think I ran out of thoughts there.
No, I understand. I think it's hard. You get to a certain point in describing your work where it becomes difficult to, there's that intuition that is very hard to explain. That's why you made the work.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a reason why we still have paintings post language, and post print and even post internet. We're still making paintings. Like, I feel like paintings would have fallen or images even would have fallen by the wayside if we had a better way of explaining or showing certain things,
I always think that artists, like, it's valuable. Like, that's why we're doing this. It's valuable to talk about artists, what they're thinking about, and it can give us insight into their work.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I feel like people say, well, what does it mean? I'm like, listen, the thing I always say is, if a picture is 1,000 words, why do you need 1,035? Just take what it is.
Yeah. And what's it mean to you too? I think that's a really important thing.
If you tell them, in a way, you're taking that away from them.
Right.
Like, if they're like, what is that? It's about a can opener. They're like, oh. Everything they had in their head is gone.
Right.
Now it's about a can opener.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, and those words, all they really are signposts pointing to an actual phenomenon or actual thing in the world. They're not that thing itself,
Right.
So it kind of sometimes defeats the purpose. Like with the painting that I'm about to release, I'm just going to give just the title, and like, if you want to look that up, like, you're free, let your mind go, but I think it's more, just trying to be more straightforward is where I'm at. But I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about NFTs, because I think that you were one of the first artists that I noticed talking about that. Would you mind explaining what it is to our listeners? I mean, I guess I could, but I've been talking a lot.
No. What's funny is, I think I'm probably some tech guy somewhere, some programmer is going to be screaming at the screen like, dude, that's not what it is. Okay, so there's the blockchain, right? Which is basically almost like a spreadsheet. It keeps track of transactions and and it's transparent, right? So what NFT is putting an art file on the blockchain, and once you've done that, if you take Bitcoin, for example, let's start there. If you take Bitcoin, the key to Bitcoin is you can't copy it.
Right.
There's 21 million of them or whatever, and there will never be 22. Right. Nobody can borrow your Bitcoin and you say, oh, now we have 2. That will not happen.
There's no artificial inflation.
There's no artificial inflation. We've done now with NFT, they've done the same thing with art. So when you mint a piece of art on the blockchain, it becomes a non-fungible token, NFT, and that thing is the only one. You can make an addition of 10, but then those are the only 10. And so what it allows is for digitally people to own art. Whereas before it had to be physical in order for it to have value. And everything on the internet, you just say drag, drop. Now I've got it too. Well, you can have it on your computer, just like I could have a copy of the Mona Lisa hanging on my wall.
Right.
But there's only one.
Right.
And that person who owns the one has the value. So essentially, I have a problem with this explanation that I've just given because it essentially creates the marketplace, which is a great thing, especially for digital artists who previously have really been looked down on. If we think about it in reality, that's the reason why we look down on them, because they can't sell it. We always say, oh, it's not as cool when you make it on Photoshop as when you paint it. But the reality is the painting you can sell, and the Photoshop you just can't. I mean, somebody might buy it from you for $5, but they can just copy it from you or whatever. Or you're just a work for hire. Nobody wants your original Photoshop painting.
Right.
It's the market which has made digital art be seen this way. But the problem with that is now everybody doing NFT has started to see it as simply a way of creating a digital marketplace. But it is more than that. And that's what I'm trying to push in NFT right now. And I see nobody's really playing with this that much. But there are some people trying to play with. But when you create something, a new way of presenting art, it's not just a marketplace, it's an actual format. So I want people to play with the blockchain in a way where it's not about the market. Like people are playing with it with the market. For example, the artist Beeple Crap, you know that guy?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So Beeple do you know about the story I'm about to tell you about his NFT drop?
Yeah, he crushed it.
He sold 3.5. I mean, I don't think the guy ever made really a dime off his art in 13 years. Maybe made a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
He made $3.5 million in 2 days.
Yeah.
Off of one drop.
Right.
There's a bunch of different pieces in it, but one drop, $3.5 million. And in one of his drops, he had pieces for $1. You could buy it for $1. So that's playing with the marketplace in a way which I think is really interesting, because what you're doing is you're making it so anybody can afford it. And two, you're also testing the value once it's been bought, because people were reselling it same day for $1,600.
Damn.
I can't think of an asset in the world which can do that. So people are playing with the marketplace that way. But what I'd like to see them do is play with blockchain that way. So for example, the first piece, which I really felt like I was playing with blockchain that way, my first couple were releasing my paintings as NFT, scanning them and releasing them, which I thought had value because you can release a print which has value. I didn't do papers. You just hang it on your wall, put it in a frame. I know that it does. You can buy a print of Picasso or whatever for thousands of dollars. But in truth, I don't feel like a inkjet print has value. I just feel that way. Whereas the blockchain, it created value for my things so people can buy them for cheap as opposed to buying the whole painting. But still, that's not very adventurous. So the third NFT drop I do it on a site called Nifty Gateway, but there's a million of them. Maker's Place. You can do Unrareable. You can mint your own and have your own store in one called OpenSea. It shows every NFT which is on the internet right now, I think, in one place. There's a bunch. And I did mine on Nifty Gateway, and then my third drop, rather than being some variation of a painting, was a photo of my dad's body as he passed away.
Right, yeah. I saw that.
And what I did that for was it had to be real. If you don't do a real piece of work, then it has no value. So there was real feeling behind that, because what I did was I minted it on the blockchain, and somebody can buy this physical representation of my memory. I have it in my head, but they can buy the picture I took, and then I deleted it off my phone. There's only that one, and it's gone for me.
Yeah.
Somebody owns that. So for me, it was an interesting art concept. But beyond that, it used I wanted to demonstrate that we can use the blockchain in an interesting way. We've created this moment in time, and it's a one of one now. And to me, that was just fascinating. Like, I could see entire companies down the road saying, commemorate I don't think they use pictures of the body, but commemorate your loved ones, because the blockchain is eternal. As long as there's a network, it's going to be there.
Right.
So you put your loved one's picture on the blockchain, and boom, it's forever there. So I thought that was kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
And And there's a lot of different directions to go with that. I have some idea. I'm shocked at how everybody's just using it as a market and nobody's thinking of it as a format.
Like the context to present your art, kind of a thing.
Yeah, the context. It's not just a way to sell it. It's an actual thing in itself.
Mm.
For me, it's like if they invented, the movies are more extreme, but for me, it's as if they invented the movies and people are like, now we can show paintings on the wall. Here's this painting.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you could do something totally different. What are you doing this for? Like, I think because if you think about it, it's also a ledger, okay? So I'm going to throw an idea out there.
Okay.
Nobody's ever done this. And if somebody hears it and wants to do it, I hope they do it. It's a ledger, right? And there's just a thing on the ledger. What if every time it's sold, every time there's a new transaction, the image that's attached to it changes. So if I have one and I sell it to you, you don't get the same thing I just sold you. And we don't know what it's going to be till you buy it.
That's cool. And so it's kind of like the collaborating with what, the AI or the blockchain itself, or?
I think it'd be built into the blockchain, but I think there'd have to be some kind of programming. There would have to be some kind of backend to make that happen, which I don't know. But I'm talking to a bunch of different people. I'm working on a bunch of different ideas. But for me, we've got something totally new going on. But instead what's happening, and I'm glad, and it's obvious, but every digital artist is like, dude, I can sell things now. And that's all that's happening.
Which is great. It's great.
Which is great. Yeah. Which is great, but I kind of want them to a little bit.
Yeah. So I had a question about selling, say, like a traditional painting as an NFT. What do you do with the physical painting after you sell it as an NFT? You still have that?
I still have that because I view it as a print. Like you have the painting, then you have the prints of the painting.
Gotcha.
But I'm going to do a funny one. Well, I can't give this away. But that exact question, I'm going to do a drop which directly addresses that.
Okay, nice.
So because that's what I'm thinking. Like there's ways of playing with this. So I'm gonna do my next one. You'll see, and then I'll even send it to you and direct message and Instagram, Sweet. And then you'll see it. That's what it is. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't want to give it away since I'm about to do it. Like you don't want to say, "Oh, this is the idea I'm going to put out tomorrow," and everybody says, "Oh, like."
Yeah. Right.
So, it'll be more than tomorrow. It'll be like a month, but I still,
So traditional artists or painters can can use that to sell as like a one-of-one print of their work rather than
they could have, like I did 10 of 10s when I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 different people could own a print. But there's a guy named Trevor Jones who is have you seen this guy?
I don't think so.
He's a traditional artist. He's a painter. I think he's from across the pond, but I'm not sure. Nice guy. I've messaged him back and forth a few times. But he has had some pretty big drops. I think he had one single piece sell for $55,000 and stuff. So he's making big money off of it. But he's a painter, and what he does is he paints images and then he collaborates with people do motion graphics to animate his paintings.
Nice.
And so there's different possibilities for traditional media, I think.
That's awesome. Okay, Sweet. Well, thanks for that little NFT tutorial. I'm going to take a break real quick.
Yeah.
So I just
how does that work? Do we turn it down, or
No, I just paused the recording.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be right back.
All right, cool. We're taking a break. Are you going to go over to the house, baby? Did you run?
I went there, Mom.
That's good.
Because I was worried about not being here on time.
For what? To go?
Mm-hmm.
No, you should go without me.
Without you?
Yeah, because unless you want to go later in the night, okay. But this is, I don't know, he wants to talk a little bit more. I'll tell him I have to go at a certain point.
No. What was it that you told me?
What? Earlier? That if this is going on like at 6 or something, maybe just go if you want. Yeah? Okay. I checked my mail and I got this bag from the New Yorker. I don't know why.
What now? Sorry.
I said I checked my mail and I got this bag from the New Yorker. I have no idea why the New Yorker sent me a bag.
Are they?
But that's cool though.
Are they headhunting you, or like, are they?
I don't think so.
Do they want to work with you or something?
Not that I know of. But neat.
Yeah, cool. Well, congratulations.
I do it for the swag, really.
Yeah. Nice. So one thing that I skipped over earlier. So your paintings, again, I meant to include this in the about your work section, but your paintings obviously have a lot of references to Hinduism. Are you a Hindu? Would you describe yourself as a Hindu?
I would not. I think in a traditional sense, I am. Because traditionally Hindus were it was just a culture. Okay. It wasn't, it's not a dogmatic way of life. It's become a bit more that way.
Yeah.
But there were atheists who, they would say, are you Hindu? Yeah. So basically follow that way of life. Do you believe in God? No, but I do this.
Yeah.
So in those terms, yeah, for sure I am.
Yeah.
But in the terms that it's become, probably, I don't know, especially in the last 50 to 100 years, from my understanding, even because when my dad describes when he was young, as opposed to the way I'm seeing on Instagram now with the messages I get, is definitely more extreme.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I see a lot of angry Hindu men commenting on your stuff. And
yeah, here's my boy. I don't know what he's doing back there.
Hey, what's up, dude?
But yeah, they I think they're confused. That's what I tell them. They don't upset me because they're just confused.
Yeah.
I'll paint Krishna somewhere or the other and be like, that's not what he looks like. But there is no Krishna is in all things. Like, there's no form of this deity. Like, I don't know what the argument is. So, they just are confused. There's no logic to it. It's the most open concept for religion ever. Like they say, oh, here's Jesus. Oh, he's invited too. Whatever, bring it in.
Join the party.
Join the party. But the Buddha is fully integrated because it's been so many thousands of years.
Yeah.
But that was a separate thing. But now it's 100%. He's in it. Whatever. It's all everybody. Come on. But now it's become much more rigid among, especially. I think it's a political thing largely.
Okay.
I think it's tied to politics and everything. There's fear of other religions encroaching on them. It's a culture war type thing.
Classic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Classic.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on that for a little bit. And yeah, you answered my question of why do you think they're so angry? I guess because they're just confused.
Very, very confused.
So yeah, we've gone past the hour mark already, which is great. But I have like a few more questions for you, and these are just kind of like questions that I've sort of formed over the course of doing this podcast that I like to ask. What is one, I guess, brutal fact about the art world that younger artists, maybe like myself, might not be aware of?
The feeling that you may have to sell out is possibly true. And also that you're not invited. I don't mean you, but me, everybody. You're not invited. It's a bully system. Either you go to the right New York school for your MFA and succeed, and the collectors come and the teachers talk to the galleries and people show up and say, oh, it's lovely. Like, I'll take 5 of them. Or you're like me and you. And nobody wants to see what you did. And it doesn't matter if you're doing the same thing as those guys who went to the school. They know what they're doing. So it's really a brutal, long path. That feeling that it never ends is true. Like I still haven't had the feeling that I've made it. And I feel like I probably have made it.
Yeah.
I still don't feel
you
that way.
suspect
Like,
that you may have made it.
Yeah, I may have made it, but I'm really not sure. So that feeling doesn't, and maybe for Damien Hirst or somebody who's made $1 billion, like whatever.
Yeah.
but you're always like, okay, like, I don't know. It's a very difficult path. It's not, you have to love it or don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think every artist knows that in their heart, but
Absolutely.
then there's this thing which tells them people are going to love this piece. They're going to go crazy, and it's going to, you know, everybody's going to, nobody ever does that.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you make. Nobody ever does that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I've had that experience so many times, being like, this is the one. And then you post it and it sort of just sits around in your studio for a while. And then maybe you sell it months later and you're like, well, okay, that's still pretty cool. Yeah. It's funny. Like, we build ourselves up in a lot of ways because we're putting so much into a painting, like so many different states of mental and emotional being, just as you go through day-to-day life, get kind of like infused into the painting. And so you sort of expect the same kind of energy to be coming back at you, but it comes back in these weird ways, if it does at all. Yeah.
And the other thing is, just my word of advice to young artists, I don't think I need to give this to you. You have, like, you've established yourself, but then when people first start out, I feel like they put, you know, they don't have an Instagram following, they don't have any of these things. They put a lot of stock in what people say. You can't put a lot of stock into that.
Yeah.
Whether it be a compliment or an insult, it doesn't matter. You got to do what you do. Like, somebody says, that's amazing. Don't be like, oh, yes. Like, who cares what that person thinks? Whatever. Even if they're paying you, it doesn't matter. You got to follow this, or it doesn't matter.
Totally. Yeah. I definitely learned that through the compliment route, I think. Being people like gassing up my early work, and, you know, for a year, maybe two, I was like, I guess I'm good, you know, like, but then I was like, you know, had that feeling like I could be making way better work than I am, you know.
Every once in a while, somebody will say something. It's never a compliment. Like, the compliments, ignore them. Every once in a while, somebody will give you a criticism, and you're like, there's something real in what that person says, and you just go over your head. What was it? Because you suck because of this. Well, the you suck part isn't true, but something in there was true. Like, you're trying to get at it.
Totally.
And that's worth it. But other than that, just try not to pay too much attention.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is a new question that I want to start asking my guests. What are some words that you would use to describe yourself when you're at your best?
Giving. All words like that, to be honest with you, when I think about it. Loving, accepting. I think I'm at my best I'm at my best with people, and I'm at my best with my family because I feel the most connected to that, and the most responsibility for that too. But I love the connections with people, and if I feel like I'm positively, like, they've left feeling good about themselves, and I feel like, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, there's some kind of transaction happen where somebody feels happy about things, and I feel like that's the best for me. Not some kind of fake happiness, but something real, like something solid has happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. This is kind of a follow-up question to that. How important is it to have, like, a good set of those kind of values or ethics on the artist career path?
As far as the career, I think I would say it's like anything else. In some cases, it probably doesn't matter at all. There's probably a lot of artists who are just trying to get ahead at any cost. Hey, like, let's have a group show. Oh, I'm going to cut these guys out of it. Now it's a solo show. Like, they don't care. Whatever it takes. And I've encountered artists like that.
But do you think that they're happy?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But maybe they think they are. It's hard to say.
Is that just as good as being happy?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when you get people who, like when there's a disconnect,
Mhm.
and then they are truly not as happy, even if they believe that.
Mhm.
But I think it's like anything else for the career side of it. If the people who succeed are often the people who are personable, who enjoy interactions with others, because it really is, in the end, unless you get a great agent or gallery, it is about you as a person.
Mhm.
Like when people message you on Instagram, people find you that way, and it
Mhm.
depends on how you respond.
Yeah.
You don't have to be giving to everybody, but you have to be open to be able to give to everybody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. And so last question, everyone, has like strengths, in their personality or the way that they live their life. If you had to pick one of your strengths, what would you consider like your superpower?
Tenacity.
Tenacity. Nice.
Yeah, not that, like, because as an artist, like, there are those moments where like, oh my God, I should just, like, why am I doing this? And I hate this piece, and this is the worst. But if you never let that affect you,
Yeah.
like if 10 seconds later you're like, this is going to be my finest moment,
Yeah.
then you can't lose in this game. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even a game, but you cannot fail.
Yeah.
Like and then when I was younger, it would affect me very badly because it would be like a mood swing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. But then you'd be like, I can do it. And it'd be like a swing. But now when I start feeling that, the experience tells me, no, I can do this. And you just stay even through it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, tenacity, because also it's both in the artistic creation side of it and the career side of it. It's
Yeah. You just have to keep persevering. Just keep going.
It's disheartening. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There are those moments where either you don't want to do it or you just judge your work too hard, or any number of things can happen to kind of put you on the contracting side of the slope there. And yeah, you have to have some sort of trick to snap yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Or just maybe some personality trait. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't. I think it really is a situation where a lot of the artists who just don't give up are the ones who eventually succeed. There has to be some level of intellectual creativity. There has to be some level of talent. There has to be a few different things. But if you have those things, it's no guarantee. But if you just never quit, your chances go up exponentially.
Yeah, I think that's my strategy, is to just stick around long enough so that I get let into the clubhouse or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, sweet, man. I think as far as I go, that's the end of my questions for you. Do you have anything you want to say at the end?
Well, it's just been amazing. Like, and I really appreciate, because I really think about your work quite a bit, and I think about what you must be thinking. It's so different from mine. So I appreciate, I really appreciate all your insight into it too. So thank you. That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And NFNKalyan.com is where people can find a gallery of your work. And same on Instagram, right? Same
on Instagram. My Instagram's more up to date. I don't know. Do you do the same? Like my website's like.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking about sort of revamping my website and changing the context in which I'm trying to present my work. Yeah. So right now I'm starting to again like trim the fat, focus on just, if I'm going to sell prints, making them just limited editions. And the NFT thing is actually very intriguing to me, so I'm going to look more into that.
I think you should do it.
Yeah.
I 100% think you should do it. You should look into, and let me see if there's anybody I know I can contact about getting you on. But you should. Every platform has an application process.
Cool.
And when I've applied, I've gotten emails back from them. So I would recommend doing that. You'll definitely get a response.
Awesome.
Because you can do it, like I said, you can do it on your own. But then if you go onto the platforms, they kind of curate and pipe it up a little bit, so then you get the clients coming in.
Nice.
Anyways, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kalyan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to finally like talk to you, if not in person, digitally.
We're gonna link up in real life.
Yeah.
Maskless after this COVID thing, you know.
Yeah, Basel
Not the
next
5 foot,
this year,
6
I guess.
foot thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So, yeah, man.
Well, sweet. Thanks so much, man.
Thank
and
you.
We'll check you later. Peace.
All right, cool. See ya.
That was great.